Peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstone, what's going on? Just had a great conversation with my friend Ife, and we weren't necessarily talking about current events, but we were talking about reality, right? Reality, the Akashic records, and the universe, and different realities and perceptions of reality. And one thing we have to remember is this: everything comes out of darkness, right? Everything comes out of darkness. The thoughts that you have come from a dark slate in the mind. Your dreams come from a dark slate in your mind. You came from the dark womb of your mother. Trees, plants, they come from the darkness of the soil, right? The word chem in chemet, the word chem, it is one of the roots of the word chemistry, which comes from chemia, which is the Greek name for chem or chemet, chemia, which means the study of darkness, right? Or the study of blackness or dark matter. So this is where chemistry, modern chemistry, comes from. Even when you talk about alchemy, the beginning process of alchemy is something called negredo, right? So we know negro, right? Darkness. Not necessarily black, but darkness, right? So when we come into this universe, we come out of darkness and we return to darkness. Now, if darkness is a blank slate, meaning that out of everything comes darkness: man, woman, child, animal, insect, good, evil, up, down, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, different galaxies, right? Parallel universes, multiverses, if that's what you want to call it, right? Although my theory is that there's one universe, just multiple galaxies that represent multiple realities. We have to think that there are multiple realities outside of this three-dimensional reality that exists. It's similar to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. In Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, there's a scene where he's traveling with, forgot the other character's name, but she's a star, right? She has a star emblem on her chest. Her name, Americana, forgot her last name, right? But he's able to travel, and she's actually a time traveler. She's able to travel to parallel galaxies and travel through the multiverse, right? And there's a scene where there's so many different realities that Doctor Strange is passing through with her that look totally different than this 3D reality that we are in. So why am I talking about this, right? I literally just put 3 plants down, right? Plants that I named Orset, Orser, and Heru, right? In my home. And me and Ife, we had this conversation, and it came right on time because I was also doing a deep dive on melanin, right? Eumelanin, pheomelanin, not pheno, but pheo, like Theo, as in Huxtable. Rest in peace to Malcolm Jamal Warner. But Theo, or pheno, or pheomelanin, not pheno, but pheomelanin, which is the reddish yellow form of melanin, and also eumelanin, which is what blocks the UV light and is much more of the physical protector, but also allows us to absorb the sun rays and turn it into energy. And also neuromelanin, which deals with the substantia nigra, right? Substantia nigra, there we go, nigra, negrito, right? Which deals with the dopamine, right? Dopamine receptors and how emotions are tied to dopamine. So, I say all this again to say, we have this whole thing that's happening in the media right now, where they're pushing a reality on us, heavy, right? We have this Charlie Kirk situation, right? his name, the name of his company was Turning Point, right? Name of his company was Turning Point. And this is something with this Charlie Kirk situation that's very unprecedented. People that are speaking up about him in a negative way are being fired from their job. Uh, they're losing, income. Some may even be, who knows what's going to happen in the future, right? With that situation, but a lot of people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of preachers coming out, in particular so-called black preachers, who are saying he's not my type of Christian. He's not the Christian that I was, right? I saw something or heard something about Charleston White being doxxed because he talked about Charlie Kirk. So they have his address on the internet, right? Charleston White has a lot of enemies, right? And so forth and so on. There's also stories of melanated people getting hung recently, right? In the news. There's also HBCU people who can't go to school, right? I have a friend who's in a HBCU and her classes have been canceled. She hasn't been in school because of death threats. Even though, and this is all tied to the turning point of this Charlie Kirk situation. And this is all, but the thing is about the Charlie Kirk situation is that this is Caucasian on Caucasian crime. This is white on white violence, right? And the interesting thing, before I get to my main point, the interesting thing about this whole thing is that when it comes to so-called black people, whenever there's some type of violence committed against black people, whenever there's some type of atrocity that happens to us, the first thing they say is, okay, let's gather together, let's protest, and let's be nonviolent, right? Let's gather and, pray and march, right? But make sure we're nonviolent. But now that there's white on white crime, now that it's a political crime, I don't hear those same calls for nonviolence. I don't hear people saying, oh, people that are Caucasian, again, this is not a race thing, it's just an observation on how people are pulled in different directions in this reality and puppeted to think different things in this reality. I don't hear the same calls for Caucasian people to stand down. I don't hear the same calls for Caucasian people to be nonviolent. I don't hear the same calls for Caucasian people to be peaceful in this situation. And let's not even just limit it to Caucasian people. People on the right, right? People on the right to stand down and to not engage in violence. And when it's people on the left who something happens to, right? And again, we're just using political markers to designate ideas, right? You don't hear the same calls for, you don't hear people that are stirring up violence and stirring up, it's always about peace and marching and praying and going to church and, going to your polls and voting for change and things like that, right? Well, we know the political system overall is corrupt. If you're still with all this happening, if you're still on the left or the right, and you still don't realize that there, as is commonly said, two wings on one bird, then you're going to be going back and forth. If you still believe that race, right, this artificial construct that was created in the 1600s called race is a real thing. Now, this is not to say that we don't have cultural differences. This is not to say we don't have social nuances. This is not to say we don't have unique experiences depending on our culture and depending on our nationality and depending on our citizenry, right? But all in all, everything comes from darkness. Going back to the main point, everything comes from darkness. Everything comes out of darkness. The darkness of mind, the darkness of soul, right? The darkness of soil. Whether that soil is Mama Earth, whether that soil is your mother, which represents the earth, whether that soil is the darkness of the universe, the darkness of space, whether that darkness is within a cell, most of it is empty space. Within a cell, most of it is empty space. So that means most of it is dark. Most of it is invisible, right? So everything happens truly within the darkness, all realities. These are my wind chimes going off, right? And my neighbor has wind chimes as well. Interesting the way universe sets things up when you are truly aligned and really sincere about being aligned. But anyway, thank you, Spirit. But anyway, so when we talk about darkness, right, and we talk about alternate universes or the multiverse and different realities, we have to realize the reality of this turning point in America is not the only reality. There's a different reality in Gaza. There's a different reality in Nepal where they're fighting, right? There's a different reality in France, right, where they're protesting in France. There's a different reality all over the world. There's different realities that are popping up. So, and this is just on this planet alone. There's different realities. Different people have different dreams. Different people have different visions. Different people have different goals. Different people are surviving differently. So this reality that is being pushed on us, this division between left, right, black, white, the only people that benefit are the powers that were, the so-called elite, the people who sit back and sell you the guns, the people who sit back and market the propaganda, the people who sit back and inflame either side, the people who sit back and empower deranged people. I remember Bobby Hemmett was talking about homelessness in one of his videos, the great Bobby Hemmett. And Bobby Hemmett was saying how are there so many people homeless and crazy and deranged? And he said him and C. Freeman L. was sitting outside and watching this for a couple of days, watching just homeless people move around. And he said one day he saw that they were letting out crazy people out of institutions to make it seem that all homeless people are crazy and deranged and mentally ill, where we know that's not the case. In fact, some people that are watching this may or may not have been homeless. I've been homeless before, so I know how it feels. I've been homeless as a kid, right? Not through no fault of my own, right? And through no fault of really my parents not having resources, but because I was rebellious. So our reality in this life is a reality that we have to choose. If we say this universe is holographic, right, and science confirms that we live in a holographic universe. If we watch movies like The Matrix is a womb. What is a womb? A womb is darkness. The word matrix means womb. The womb is dark. You've never seen a baby, right, being born with the naked eye, or not saying being born, but a baby being gestated and creating from a zygote, right, to the flower of life, to, to feeding from a tube and things like that. You only can see that through a microscope and through careful observation. But other than that, that reality is not something that you see on a day-to-day basis. But we all know babies come here. We all were once babies. We all were once children, right? And we continue to grow. So the reality that they're pushing on us, black, so-called white, so-called brown, so-called yellow, so-called whatever people, even aliens, right? That they're pushing us here in this three-dimensional reality called Earth. That really is an illusion. We live in Maya. Maya is an illusion, right? This is all an illusion. brought to us by the sun. This is an inverted reality. When we see things, what's really happening is everything is really upside down. Our eyes, right, the concave of our eyes, flip this reality to right side up. So this reality is really upside down. This, as the great Killer Priest said on the Jesus album, is a Bible, a holy book of your life. These are basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what this planet is. This planet is a training ground. This planet is a reality that is here for you to, they had those books back in the day. I used to like reading these growing up. I don't know if they have them now, but they have these books called Choose Your Own Adventure. And depending on the choices you made, it would depend on the conclusion that would happen at the end of the story. So you might be on page, 3 of the story. Then it'll say, okay, choose your own adventure. And then you make a choice. You're either going to go left. Let's say there's a road. You could either go left down the road and go into a cave, or go right down the road and go into the city, right? And you might go right to go into the city. And then it says, okay, turn to page 72. So you turn to page 72 and you go into the city, like there's war going on in martial law. But then if you selected going to the cave, right, it was peace and tranquility, and there was a backpack you could find, right? Different adventures to choose, right? So this is a choose your own adventure reality. This three-dimensional reality, this planet Earth that deals with 4 elements, five, water, air, earth, and plasma, right? But the key is really plasma. And that plasma is your inner fire, the dark flame, so to speak, which ties into melanin, right? Which ties into eumelanin, especially for melanated people, right? Highly melanated people. Your ability to use your emotions is your superpower. I'm going to say this again. Your ability to use your emotions is your superpower. One more time for the people in the back. Your ability to use your emotions is your superpower. And the way your superpowers are manipulated is by dragging your emotions into a Hegelian dialectic, which is problem, reaction, solution. Problem, reaction, solution. So when you have these situations that pop up in the news, they're designed to make you tense. They're designed to give you anxiety. They're designed to produce fear. They're designed to produce worry. They're designed for you to talk about them to your family, to your friends, to your co-workers, at the water cooler, at the pool, on a beach, on vacation. They're designed to distract you from the reality that you want to create. Designed to take you from you creating your own adventure. And I always go back to that because that is really the truth. The only morality in life, the only true morality, and this is even echoed in the book of Matthew, right? I believe it's Matthew 19, right? 26 or something like that. You could look it up yourself. But the only true reality is to treat your neighbor as thyself. The only true morality, The only true morality is to treat your neighbor as thyself, because everyone is a reflection of you. Everyone you encounter is you. Let's go back to the 5 elements. We are all drinking the same water. We are all breathing the same air. We are all walking on the same earth. We are all under the same sun, fire, and the same moon, right? And we are all have our own inner flame, plasma, right? Which even if you go into the blood, right, blood plasma. So we all are part of the elements, the 5 elements of physics. So your reality is up to you to choose. You could choose a side, right? You could choose to say, okay, I'm on the black side, right? I'm going to be pro-black. But there's people on the pro-black side that are there to manipulate you and pull your strings if all you think about is blackness. You could be on the white side, right? So-called black, so-called white side, right? And believe that, everything white is right, and be racist. Or not even be racist. You could be halfway racist, right? Or you could have these ideals that people of other cultures are trying to take your job. People of other cultures are trying to take your women. People of other cultures are trying to take you away from your own reality in life. Or you could be from any other culture and have these biased views toward another. But everyone is a reflection of you. Everyone in this reality is a reflection of you. So what you do to others, you do to yourself. That is treating thy neighbor as thyself. That is what the Cometians call ma'at, your heart being light as a feather. That that lightness of a feather is you feeling what they call empathy, right? Or being an empath. You feeling what others feel. You being tapped into what others feel. Doesn't mean being nice, right? Doesn't mean being nice. It doesn't even necessarily being kind, right? Empathy or being an empath is also about, putting people in their place, saying no. If you don't want to hurt, right, and you don't want anybody to hurt you, you have a right to defend yourself. And if that person is hurting you, you have a right to hurt that person. That is treating other people the way you want to be treated. You don't want to hurt, right? And if somebody's trying to hurt you, you don't want to hurt, and you want to make sure the person doesn't hurt you. You're treating that person the way you want to treat yourself. You don't want to hurt that person. You don't want to be hurt. That person is coming at you, so you could come at that person, right? That's fair. That's balanced. But this balance is being manipulated at this time, and people are not treating people the way that they want to be treated. So this is what makes people angry. This is what riles people up. This is what makes people fearful. This is what makes people feel unsafe. This is what makes people feel heavy. Because this is not a world where we live on these principles. See, people aren't inherently good. I don't care what color, shade, creed, or class you come from. People aren't inherently good. People are inherently selfish. And if you don't believe me, go around little children, right? When they're in their infancy, early stages of development, especially moving from the Aries stage where you're just coming out of the womb and you're a little lamb or little ram, right, trying to develop. And then you go into the second stage, which is the Taurus stage, which is where you're thinking about comfort, thinking about possessions, right, thinking about luxuries, thinking about what you have versus the other. That stage, what they call the terrible twos, up until 5, you're really very selfish. You're really very possessive. You're really throwing tantrums and wilding out when your mom says no, when your pop says no. You're really testing your limits. You might be throwing food, right? People even hit their parents, right? You're really testing your limits. So during these stages of development, we are learning who and what we truly are. But humans are necessarily not altruistic. Humans necessarily are not all good. What happens is there are cultures, right, set up to help humanity elevate to the point of knowing that what I'm telling you, that your reality is yours to choose. To tell you that treat people the way you want to be treated, but don't allow people to violate you, right? If they're not treating you the way you want to be treated, protect yourself, defend yourself. Do I think people should protect themselves and defend themselves in this era? Of course. That's wisdom. That's the only thing. That's the right thing to do. That's the wise thing to do. That's the common sense thing to do. Even an animal is going to protect themselves if someone is coming at them. And at our core, we are mammals. So we are animals by nature. So the key is to understand who and what we are, and understand that there is a higher self and a lower self. And the lower self is the animalistic nature in us. It's the animalistic instinct, urges, right? And that's where most people are. They're controlled by fears, they're controlled by instinct, they're controlled by the news, they're controlled by the media, They're controlled by other people. They're controlled by money. They're controlled by sex. The lower three chakras. Then you have heart chakra people who are connected, who understand people, but you could even manipulate people's heart through empathy. That's what marketing is based on. Empathy is totally different from compassion. So you could be an empath and be wicked as hell, right? If you're not compassionate. Empathy is the doorway to lead to compassion, right? But some of the greatest marketers in the world, Edward Bernays, is an empath. Read the book Propaganda. He talks about how, this one example, he talks about how he changed breakfast to have people eating eggs and bacon. The most popular breakfast still exists to this day. Eggs and bacon. Because the egg company, right, and the pig company, the farmers, they wanted to sell more eggs and bacon. So because the farmers wanted to sell more eggs and bacon, right? This is the empath. The farmers wanted to sell more eggs and bacon. He created a marketing campaign, right, in the 60s and 70s to have people eat more eggs and bacon. It's no different than the milk campaign when I grew up, right? When you had athletes, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and young Serena and Venus, right? And, Kris Jenner before he was whatever he is now, right? And all these different athletes wearing milk mustaches and saying it's good for your bones and it's good for your body. Well, that comes from the milk industry, right? Wanted to sell more milk. That's being an empath. And as a professional salesperson that's done this for years, that's how it works. So the people that market these things to you are empaths. Dark side empaths, but empaths nonetheless. So understanding, going back to the core, and I don't want to have this too long, try to keep it under 30 minutes. Going back to this core is this. Don't let your empathy be misused. Don't let your emotions be misused. Don't let your ideas be misused. The best thing you could do is go out in nature. The best thing you could do is sit out in the sun. The best thing you could do is go out in some water. The best thing you could do is hug a tree. The best thing you could do is laugh. The best thing you could do is get a pen and a piece of paper and write out your reality the way you want to see it. Not the way the world defines it. Not the way society defines it. Not through your fears. Not through your fears, but through your own reality. And it takes practice. I'm not here to give you no microwave quick fixes, because that's not the way reality works. You have never seen a seed grow into a tree in days. You have not seen a seed grow into a tree in a couple of months. But it's got to start somewhere. The water represents your emotions. It represents your empathy. It represents your level of compassion. The sun represents your light. It represents the information. It represents the knowledge. It represents the ideas that you have. It represents your food for thought, right? And the soil is your soul, right? And the spirit is the air. So the spirits that you will attract, it really depends on the soil and the soul that you have and the light that you take in and the emotions. This goes back to your electromagnetic field, aka your aura, right? This electromagnetic field, this informed field of electricity, which comes from your thoughts, your light, third eye, and your emotions, or the magnetism, your feelings, right? Your emotions, your feelings, that's your magnetism, all come together to attract or repel things to you. That's what you have to master. Not master what the secret societies are doing. Not master what the government's doing next. Not looking at Charlie Kirk's shooting video over and over and over and over and over and saying, oh, that's a blood bag there on his chest. Oh, look at how the ring switched, right? Not watching these videos of lynchings and being like, shit, am I going to get lynched next? Is this going to happen to me next? Not being worried when a cop pulls you over and being like, am I going to be the next person that's a victim of police violence? Do you know how many times I've drove around this country without a license? This country, not a license, and been stopped by police and handed them my ID, and they've given it back to me, and all I've said was, how's your tour going, officer? And nothing's happened, because I don't think anything's going to happen to me. I don't feel like anything's going to happen to me. I took a Greyhound from New York to Texas to move here. And on this Greyhound ride, right, there was a situation where I would have to get off and switch trains, which I didn't even know when I booked the Greyhound. I'm not a Greyhound. I didn't take a Greyhound. Sorry, I took the Amtrak, right? And because I wanted to see, I had always wanted to do a cross country trip on an Amtrak. So took that off the bucket list, right? So I took a trip on the Amtrak. It was cool, right? I might get into that. If y'all want me to put in the comments, I might drop a video about that. But I took a cross-country trip on the Amtrak. And there was a point where I fell asleep on the Amtrak. And this is not me saying I'm better than anybody, right? I'm just showing you what will happen if you really tap in to creating your own, choosing your own adventure, creating your own reality out of the darkness, right? Really pulling light from the darkness. The light that you want to see in your life, really utilizing your third eye. So in the morning, right, they had I had to switch from one Amtrak train to another, and this train was the train that actually was going to take me to Texas. And so I woke up on time, right, but I ended up falling asleep. Right, so I woke up early, right, got ready, got everything ready, because I knew, like, I think it was like 10 a.m. or something, I had to get off the train, right? So I woke up like, I think 6, 7, or 8, one of them times. Anyway, so I woke up early, I got everything ready, but I'm sitting on the train, you know, the train's moving, and I ended up falling back asleep. Now, they do announce when they're making stops, but I sleep like a bear, right? I go into deep sleep. Deep REM sleep, right? So I go to sleep, right? Inadvertently. And something's just waking me, something just in my dreams is like waking me up, like wake up, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden my body, like, this is in my dreams, right? I feel my body like making me like want to get up and pee, right? Because I guess I wasn't getting shook up enough. So I met this guy earlier on the Amtrak train, right? Caucasian guy, cool as shit, right, from Vermont. Shout out to him if you're watching, right? And I met him, we talked or whatever during the drive, cool as shit, right? And I ended up going downstairs to the bathroom. And why did I see this guy downstairs in the bathroom? And I had told him earlier what my stop was. And he goes, I go down to the bathroom, he's like, yo bro, your stop's about to come up. I say, for real? I say, for real? He's like, yeah, your stop's about to come up. And I was like, oh, how much time you think I got? He said, man, you probably got like 3 minutes. So the spirit never woke me up. The spirit never gave me that dream out of the darkness. I would have missed my train. I had luggage that was traveling from one train to another. So that luggage would have been someplace else. And this train was going to San Antonio. I'm going to Houston. So I'd have been on a path to San Antonio, probably have to take another train back, then my luggage, who knows what could have happened to it, right? Because I wasn't there to see it or escort it or pick it up from the train. So yeah, it would have been a whole thing, it would have been a whole mess. Not only that, but I had UPS packages. As soon as I touched down in Houston, they like, yo, the day before, it was like, yo, we was trying to, and this is a lot of packages, right? They like, the day before, yo, we was trying to get these packages to you. And this is the last day. Like, if you're not here today, we're going to have to send these packages back. This is like 20 boxes, y'all. Actually, more than that. Like 27 boxes, to be exact. 27 boxes. We're going to have to send these boxes back to New York. How the fuck was I going to get these boxes back? Right? So, but all along the ride, I'm meditating. I'm like, this is going to be a great ride. This is going to be a great reality. And there was some bumps in the road, right? but I'm still holding forward fast to create my own adventure. So create your own reality. Really create it in your mind first. Then create it in your heart. Next, through your emotions, through your feelings, through your real superpowers. And choose your own adventure. What will life look like? And plant those seeds and water it with your thoughts and the emotions every day, and it will grow like a seed from the soil. It will grow like a seed from the dark chem. It is divine chemistry. The chem, K-H-E-M, divine chemistry, which is where the word chemistry comes from, as explained earlier. Divine alchemy. And things will start to come into place for you. I promise you. Things will start to come into place for you. Some of y'all know, I've just started going viral with a lot of these videos. And I've been planting the seed in my head. I'm going to be a world-class speaker, world-class teacher. Didn't know how it was going to happen. Didn't know when I was going to go viral. Didn't know what or if. But look what's happening now. Shout out to Philip Boone, right? Shout out to Philip Boone. Shout out to $1 Billion Boone. He knows why. So, don't get caught up in what you think is a reality that they pushing on you. The media, the powers that were, the so-called elites. Don't get caught up in a reality, because it's a shell game. You know those shell games where they 3-card Monte you, right? And you give your money, your energy to the shell game and think that you're aware of where the motherfucking, what do they have? Like, they might have a rock, right? Or a card under the shell, right? And you give your money, which represents your emotions, your energy, right, to the owner of the shell game, which is the media, society, the powers that be, your mama, your daddy, your uncle, school. You gotta unlearn all this shit, right? But you give your energy to it, thinking that you're gaining awareness and thinking you're gonna know where the card is under the shell. You think you're gonna know where the card is under the shell for real. But you're not. It's a 3-card money game. The card is a sleight of hand game. They're selling you lies. And this is not to say people aren't getting lynched in real life, right? I'm not saying that. This is not to say that Charlie Kirk wasn't shot in real life, in this 3D reality. I'm not saying that. But am I saying, like, are you in really proximity of all of this? Or do you have real bills? Do you have real dreams? Do you really have real goals? A man and woman without a purpose. What Nip said, find your purpose or you wasting air. The word air, the etymology of the word spirit, means air, breath, or wind. You're wasting your spirit. You're wasting your ashe. You're wasting your soul. You're wasting your existence. If your purpose is not the primary focus of your life, growth, and development, and if you don't find your purpose through your birth chart, through a reading, through a consultation with somebody like me, it doesn't have to be me, somebody like me, that should be your primary goal, to find out why you're here. The two biggest questions in life. The two biggest questions in life are why you were born and what's your purpose. Why you were born and what's your purpose. Everything else is vanity, is striving for the win, as Solomon said. And I want all y'all, because I grew up in it, right, with one of my parents. So I've seen opulence. I've seen 3-car garages. I've seen mansions and mini mansions. I've seen guest houses growing up. And I've seen that getting all these material things are not going to get you what you think it will. I see that hitting these material goals are not going to get you what you think it will. It won't give you peace. It won't give you true power. It won't give you true prosperity. It won't allow you to avoid certain situations and have certain situations fall in your lap for you to grow, for you to be attached to this darkness, to the divine universe, to the greatness that is in you, to infinity itself. to infinite possibilities through the darkness. A lot of you think that when you hit a certain financial number, that you are going to magically be happy, peaceful, everything's going to be great in your life. Look at Kanye West. La, 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 wait until I get my money right. He got his money right. And look what happened to him. This is not to say if you get your money right, you're going to crash out too. You might be altruistic, right? You might be a totally different person. But all that money does, all extra currency does, is expand who you are. It expands your fears, it expands your proclivities, it expands your shadow side, the things you refuse to deal with. And until you understand that you are here for a greater purpose, and it's not just a material thing, right? It's not just, right? Everybody has a different purpose. It's not just, it's really what brings you joy, what brings you peace, what brings you happiness. Whatever you could do, whatever, if you were put on an island and spirit, God, the universe came down and said, what is the one thing you want to do? And that will bring you everything. That's the thing you're here to do. That's the thing you're here to do. And remember this, some people are here to cause havoc. Some people are here to show you what it looks like if you don't follow your purpose. Some people are here, hold on, let me light this central candle because these bugs in Houston, they serious. I ain't, hold up. I ain't playing with these bugs. I ain't playing with these bugs in Houston at all. So, you're here for a real reason. And that's to choose your own adventure. And find out what you're passionate about and pursue that with all your heart, soul, and body. And to go through the necessary steps to polish, like the Freemason says, to polish your ashlar, polish your stone, right? To square your compass, meaning to build and destroy what you need to. This is where the shadow work comes in. This is where the hardships, the dark nights of the soul come in, right? This is where things that put you in isolation, things that sit you down, right? Get broken legs, broken bones, certain illnesses and sicknesses. These are lessons, right? This is a reality show of light and sound. That's what planet Earth is. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. And if you don't understand that you're here to choose your own reality, you're going to keep coming back and coming back and coming back and coming back. And not on higher levels, right? Not on higher levels. Some people, this is their last reincarnation, and they're going to decide. And some people have come back here to help guide the planet. Again, don't think this is a prison planet. Don't fall into Gnosticism, right? All aspects of Gnosticism, I should say. Because every so-called religious study or philosophy or theosophy has some sort of truth in it, or people wouldn't follow it. But use your own discernment, right? This is not a prison planet. Isn't it a prison planet when you're having sex? Is it a prison planet when it's payday and you got maybe a bonus on your check? Is it a prison planet when you're busting a nut and having an orgasm? Is it a prison planet when somebody makes you laugh? Is it a prison planet when you're on vacation on a beautiful beach, sipping Mai Tais or getting your back rubbed at a spa? Is it a prison planet when you learn something new? Is it a prison planet when you meet a new friend? Is it a prison planet when you meet a new love and you're excited and you're in those early butterfly stages? Is it a prison planet then? Is it a prison planet where you eat some beautiful watermelon with seeds? Is it a prison planet where you get some Popeye's fried chicken? Was it a prison planet when you decided to leave your baby mama and daddy and you felt that sense of relief because you knew this person wasn't for you? Create your own adventure. Choose your own reality. Tap into the darkness of your soul and create a vision that serves you. And nurture that motherfucker as much as possible. As much as possible. Peace, power, and prosperity. Rob Blackstorm. Let me know what you think about this video. I know it's a little long, but I haven't talked to y'all in a minute. So I hope this helps somebody with all this stuff going on, that you don't get sucked into this matrix. Peace.